Republicans really thought they had a winning political issue in the attempted Christmas Day bombing. But their efforts to politicize the incident seem now to be blowing up in their faces. Or underpants. It's just not working out. Sorry.
Less than 1 hour. That's right. Less than 1 hour. In fact, just 50 minutes. That's the amount of time that the FBI spent questioning Abdul Muttalib, the foreign terrorist who tried to blow up a plane on Christmas Day. Once afforded the protection our Constitution guarantees American citizens, this foreign terrorist lawyered up and stopped talking.
Yeah, you know, that's just totally wrong. That was Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine, top Republican on the Homeland Security Committee, delivering the Republican Party's weekly address on Saturday. And she's really, really factually wrong a lot. Just in that clip. For starters, the right to have a lawyer does not just apply to American citizens. It applies to anyone being tried in America. That's why we call it the American criminal justice system. Even immigrants get lawyers. Even illegal immigrants get lawyers if they're tried in America. Also, even if the alleged Christmas Day bomber were being held as an enemy combatant under the rules of war, like Senator Collins says he should be, he would still be entitled to a lawyer. Also, the would-be bomber apparently has been talking to authorities, even with his Miranda rights having been read to him. So, wrong, 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 and wrong again. Want to give it another shot, Senator Collins?
When the Obama administration decided to treat Abdul Muttalib as an ordinary criminal, it did so without the input of our nation's top intelligence officials. The Director of National Intelligence was not consulted. The Secretary of Defense was not consulted. The Secretary of Homeland Security was not consulted. The Director of the National Counterterrorism Center was not consulted. They would have explained the importance of gathering all possible intelligence about Yemen, where there is a serious threat from terrorists whose sights are trained on this nation.
I hate to hammer this home here, but wrong, 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 and wrong, wrong. Actually, NBC's Andrea Mitchell hosted Senator Collins on her show today, so we're just going to let Andrea take care of the fact check on this one.
What the White House would tell you and what they've been briefing reporters on, and we know there was a briefing last night, is that, first of all, there was a national security meeting which involved all the principals. All of them signed off on the decision to proceed in a non-military way. Secondly, they say the Nigerian family would not have cooperated if this had not been done the way it was done. Thirdly, they point out, you know, even ignoring all of the precedents under the Bush administration where they did proceed in the same exact fashion, the fact is that he would have been accorded an attorney because he was arrested in the United States. So even if they had proceeded under military procedures, he would have had a lawyer who would have been telling him, if not the Miranda rights, not to talk.
Well,
they don't have a point there.
You've asked me about 6 different questions in repeating the allegations that the White House has made. Look, the military detainee and trial system provides much more flexibility and would have allowed him to be questioned without a lawyer telling him what to reveal and what to conceal.
Wrong. Wrong. Andrea Mitchell just said that was wrong. Just ignoring all the evidence of your complete and total wrongness does not make you less wrong. But Senator Collins, for all of her astounding wrongness on this issue, is not the only Republican tripping and falling into the wrong in this political battle over the attempted Christmas Day bombing. Here, for example, is South Carolina's Lindsey Graham, along with Fox News' Greta Van Susteren. And the two of them, I will warn you in advance, here are just plain making things up.
Well, the interesting thing is my prior life as a criminal defense lawyer, so and sort of my look at this, either he got himself a deal right up front, a good deal, or he's got a lousy lawyer. And I understand his lawyer's good, so he must have gotten some deal.
I used to be a military lawyer, a defense lawyer. I used to be a defense lawyer in the civilian world. Yeah, I wouldn't let my guy talk until I knew it was to his benefit.
Wrong. White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs responded to this particular reckless speculation in a statement today, saying in part, quote, Abdul Muttalib has not been offered anything. The Department of Justice will take his cooperation into consideration. In other words, there is no deal, but thanks for playing, Senator Graham. Then there's Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell.
The administration still appears more interested in managing its message than explaining to the American people and to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle why an al-Qaeda-trained terrorist fresh from Yemen and caught in the act of attempting to blow up an airliner was handed over to a lawyer after a 50-minute interview.
Wow. Amazing. Wrong again. As a matter of fact, just today, the Attorney General released a letter he wrote to Mitch McConnell explaining in painstaking detail the hows and whys of the administration's case against Mr. Abdul Muttalib. Here's an excerpt that specifically addresses Senator McConnell's wrongness. Quote, since the September 11th, 2001 attacks, the practice of the U.S. government, followed by prior and current administrations without a single exception, has been to arrest and detain under federal criminal law all terrorist suspects who are apprehended inside the U.S. The prior administration adopted policies expressly endorsing this approach. In keeping with this policy, the Bush administration used the criminal justice system to convict more than 300 individuals on terrorism-related charges. In other words, wrong. Senator McConnell, not only was the statement you made wrong, but the premise behind it was also wrong. Of course, Republicans making claims like this to try to score political points on the Abdul Muttalib case is nothing new. They have been doing that ever since Michigan Congressman Pete Hoekstra, the human sieve, sent out a fundraising letter 3 days after the attempted attack, trying to raise money off of the attempted murder of Americans. What is new is the administration finally releasing information about the case to rebut these now long-standing and utterly wrong political charges. What took them so long? Joining us now is Chris Hayes, Washington editor of The Nation. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Rachel.
What did take them so long? Why is the Obama administration just now fighting back against these allegations when they clearly can be pretty easily factually rebutted?
Well, I think that there's a few reasons. One is that Democrats are always in this habitual defensive crouch when it comes to anything having to do with the war on terror, and you know, just sticking to the rule of law puts people in this politically nervous, precarious situation. And two, I think if you look over the past year, one of the really insidious things that's happened is that there has been an incentive structure set up very smartly by the extreme right-wing pro-torture right, wherein anytime the administration does the right thing on one of these issues, for instance, releasing the OLC memo, there's a huge upwell of outrage, and Dick Cheney's on your television, and it eats up 2 or 3 news cycles. And every time they do the wrong thing, no one says anything, except for some civil liberties groups who can't get on TV in the same way. Your show, of course, the notable exception. And so what it does is it creates a really nasty set of incentives, where it's always a lot more work to do the right thing. And I think that they thought that we're going to do the right thing, but we're going to do it quietly until it got to the point where they had to respond.
On that issue, though, of the way that terrorism is being politicized right now, the main argument the Republicans are making right now that, you know, Abdul Muttalib shouldn't have been read his rights, he shouldn't have been offered access to an attorney. I mean, that's not even the policies of the Bush administration. No, that's way to the right of Bush. And so are we effectively bringing the entire debate over civil liberties and terrorism so far to the right that we're going to have a whole bunch of Republicans running to the right of Dick Cheney in the next election?
Yes, that's what's so crazy about what's going on right now. I mean, first of all, everyone should read the Holder letter, because he basically lays out and he says, look, I don't care what you want, Mitch McConnell. There is no legal authority to do what you want, right? I mean, listen, if a bunch of Democratic senators and you and I and people on, you know, writing in Progressive Magazine said, I think Mitch McConnell should be arrested every time he filibusters, and every Republican should be arrested every time they filibuster, it wouldn't suddenly become a topic of debate. I mean, it's just not legally authorized to do that. So it's just not legally permissible to do the things that Mitch McConnell wants, A. And B, I think we're really seeing the dangers of this kind of slippery slopeness. And this is something civil libertarians have been warning about. Once you start eating away at these core protections, it gets a lot easier to start extending those arguments in very pernicious ways.
In terms of the White House belated pushback on this, but it is a very strong pushback that they're doing now, it seems like they're essentially setting up sort of a facts versus fear fight, that, you know, they can say all sorts of things to make us seem scary and vulnerable and all of these things, but look at the facts. I worry that in a debate between fear and fact, fear usually wins anyway.
You and I share the same worry, but you know what? You have to fight it anyway. I mean, I think hopefully we can make the case, and the people who support the rule of law can make the case that this is both what our Constitution and values demand. Practically, it has produced results. I mean, all the arguments are there to be made, but I think it really does show. Back after 2001, 2002, when this whole debate started, and after 9/11, you had people on the left saying, look, we don't want to start marching us down this slippery slope. And there were people who said, oh, you're being hysterical. But what we're seeing now is exactly that situation where Bush administration policies from as little as a year ago are now deemed excessively differential to the rule of law. So